now I'd like to drill in a little bit deeper on a project, another one of the projects that's in the demos folder, and that is demo 4. I'll open this up. And we're going to take a look at a couple of other fields, special fields that the Swimlane timeline can look at, and those are visibility type and visibility color. So again, we got our default view here. Let's go back into the project. So visibility type refers to the milestone shape. So you can specify in your source, and this is one easy way to do it. You can also do it through the conditional formatted views. But so based on, in this case, a lookup table and a number is mapped to the type of a milestone. And you'll also see visibility color, and we have a lookup table for that here too. And by the way, you can, because you've got these demo files, you can actually import these lookup tables into your project schedules if you'd like. Pretty easy to do. Other custom fields that we have here is a flag field. So, in project, it has a field called critical, which is typically, a task with 0 slack. But maybe in your organization, you have a different idea of what's critical. And in this case, we've just renamed a flag for it to be company critical. And we'll take a look at how you can filter on that. And you can actually filter on anything, including functional area or a text field, and but we'll talk about that in a minute. So we do have a functional area. Let me just go ahead and view all subtasks here. So some tasks also have a gate review, which is a custom date field. So we have a number of custom fields here, and just FYI, make sure you use, if you're going to use the custom task flags and text, etc., that you rename them, because then when it's brought into the Swimlane timeline, you actually see the name in the drop-down list. Instead of text 4, you'll see, functional area. So I'm going to generate a Swimlane timeline from this. Well, I actually had one already. Forgot about that. Doesn't take too long here. We'll generate this. And I'll delete this second one, and we'll go back to the first one that we created. There it is. Now you saw that I had a field called company critical. And as I mentioned in the filtering, you can filter on any of the fields here, whether it's a flag or if it's a text. If it is a text, anything that is non-empty will show. So this filter by itself is sort of, either has a value or doesn't have a value, or true or false, or yes or no. I'm going to apply the, company critical, and notice that some of the tasks went away there. And, now that I've filtered them, maybe I'd like to regroup them. So rather than looking at it by work breakdown structure, perhaps for my report, I want to see them grouped by functional area, as we want to focus in on each of the areas one at a time. So my design, develop, document, etc. areas, and the tasks that are in, have been assigned to those will show up in there. And what I'm going to do here too is I'm going to change the page width to be letter size to give us a little more spacing. Now, if you remember in the project schedule, I had a gate review, which was a date field. Let's go ahead and show that. I'm going to go to my date markers. And by the way, for those of you that have used the Swimlane timeline before, there is a new, the date marker ribbon icon is busted up into 2 parts. The top part is either on-off, so I could turn off my date markers or turn them on with a click. And then the bottom part is to manage date markers. We currently have a start date marker. And here's something new too. We've added a new custom capability for the date markers. We've got a little help here. But if I wanted to change from month to day to maybe something that was more internationally understood, like a 3-letter month, and a date, I can do that. So now it'll show like JUL or SEP, and I want to add my gate review date marker. So I'm going to put the gate review date marker on top, kind of like a little bird on a wire. And here's another little tip on that custom. If I use a single apostrophe and type in something, in this case GR, or maybe gate for gate review, rather than putting a date up there, it'll actually put the text. Now maybe I want the date to show, and so the gate is going to show on top of the bird wire, but on the bottom maybe I want to put the gate review date. So I'll specify the gate review on the bottom, and we'll put this month, day as well. And maybe I'd like this to be rather outside the shape. I'm going to put it inside the shape. So I'm going to switch this, and we'll put our arrow down there, and let's just see what the results are. Okay. So if I zoom in, you can see I've got gate and I've got January 2nd here. Now maybe I'd like to actually make that gate be a red circle instead of an arrow. I can change that color to be red, and we'll change it from an arrow to be a circle, and we'll change it from small to medium size. There we go. Okay. And perhaps I'd like to change this to be, centered align left, so my gate is kind of easy to see where it's hitting. So I have a note, and I have the date showing. Now I'm still looking just 2 levels deep. Let's go ahead and add a 3rd level of depth into my project schedule. In fact, I'm filtering on company critical. So in this case, I could say, let's show all levels deep in my project, now that I think about it, and I'll see just those critical paths, or company critical paths. And maybe as I'm looking at this, I don't really care that much about, the document Swimlane or the, training and deploy. I mean, that comes really important later, but for right now, I might like to look at just the design, develop, and the major milestones. Here's how you can create a custom filter by value. I'll go into Manage, where I have access to all of my custom capabilities, and we'll say Custom Filter, and I'll call this Critical, Design, Dev, and Major Milestones. I'll just call it Milestones. And just like in project, we'll insert some rows here. I'm going to double-click on a field, and I want to go to company critical. So if company critical is equal to true, and functional area is equal to design, or functional area is equal to, and by the way, if you double-click here, you'll see you can filter on equal, not equal, greater than equal, less than equal, and contains. So if you have a field that has, things separated by commas, whatever, you can use contains. But I'm going to use equal here. I'm double-clicking here. It's telling me what that field values are. So design, develop, and then we want major milestones. Okay. And I can stretch this out. And so right now we have company critical, and we want this to be an and, but we also want that logic to be encapsulated for the functional areas that we're going to be looking at. So I'm just double-clicking and applying my the parentheses to give us the priority evaluation, and you can see here that it'll first look, is company critical true, and then does it meet any of this criteria as well? And notice I'm going to apply that to the current Swimlane, and document and training should go away, and we should just be focusing in on critical, design, dev, and major milestones, which we are. Maybe I'd like to add dependencies, and that's in the Add Show. I can go to Task Dependencies, and by the way, by default, we show user only. So you can create your manual dependencies. I'll show the ones that are in the actual Swimlane timeline. Okay. And now that I'm in here, maybe I'd like to use a custom color palette. Let's go ahead and I'll create a custom color palette from this. I'll define a new one. I'll call this demo. And let's say I want to change the color palette, so I'm using, maybe a gray alternating fill color. So I can go ahead and define a new fill color. Maybe I'll just lighten that up a bit. There we are. Or maybe I just want to use white. I don't want to have alternating fill colors. Maybe I want to change my dependency lines to be red dependency lines and a tightly dotted line. We'll apply that. So you can see that this color palette has removed the alternating colors, and if I zoom in on here, you can see the dependency lines have changed. Of course, if I come back in here and I switch this color palette, and notice that that demo one that I created is in here. So when you create a custom, palettes and font settings and filters, they all go into the drop-down menus in the main menu. So I can switch back to my primary or switch to demo. It's really easy to create a custom palette and actually a custom font. So let's say, for example, I wanted the title to be a dark blue, bold, and I wanted the timeline to be, white text. I can come into the ST Manage, go to my font, define a new one. We'll call this demo. We'll change the header to be a blue, okay? And we'll make this bold and maybe just a little bit bigger. So that's our title, and for the timeline fonts, maybe I'd like those to be white color, and we'll make those bold too, and one size a little bit bigger. There we are. So you can see it's changed that as well, and of course, if I go into settings, we see that that's applied. And if I were to create a style now based on this, I'll go into my custom styles, new from the current page, call this demo. Okay, so now I just created a new custom style, and you'll see that it's available here from the drop-down list. But let's go ahead and I'll apply a different style, demo for all milestones. And it's going to generate a view of all the milestones throughout our project. But now I can go back to style and say, okay, let's apply the demo style that we just created. And remember that it does filtering, it does a different grouping, it changes the color palettes, changes the title, colors, etc. Another nice thing about the Swimlane timeline is the ability to work in kind of an interactive mode with your project schedule. If I were to select a task like Phase 2 development, by right-click, I have a lot of features here, but one is to hyperlink to that project task. So maybe I see something like, I know % complete, this is really more like 80% complete. I can right-click this and go to my project task, and notice it takes me right to that Phase 2 development task. I can make the changes that I want, save them, come back in here, and refresh. So it kind of works really nice with that, the right click on a task hyperlink back, change that single source of truth, and then come back. Now, sometimes though, people have worked, tweaking their diagrams, and they're just about to share it with everybody, and they realize, oh yeah, so I do know that, this actually, the starting date has changed to November 28th, and it is, 80% complete, and I don't want to have to regenerate this again, because it, I don't want to take a chance of losing anything. We added this command that we in SP manage called export unlock. So that'll unlock it from the data, so you can make changes. So if I say export unlock, and I'm going to, I have to save it first, so I'll just call it T. And now it's generating a unlocked version of the file. If I show you down in the bottom right, we still have our locked version, T, but the unlocked version, it automatically adds unlock to it. But let me show you what you can do. So let's say, as I mentioned, this date has changed to be, the 28th. Notice I can actually move that, and it will move. I can move the actual shape, and the dates are updated as well. If I click on the % complete, I can change that too. So sometimes in an organization, there's some people that have the Swimlane timeline and some that don't. And maybe a business analyst who doesn't have it, wants to just review it, make some changes, give it back to the scheduler. Notice that this unlocked version doesn't have the Swimlane timeline features. It's basically a Visio diagram. So you can make the changes that you want, and once you're done, we can hit, I'm going to just do Control A to select everything, Control C to copy, and we'll open up a Word document, for example, and paste that in. And rather than pasting it in as a Visio drawing, we'll paste it in as a picture enhanced meta file. And you can see that crystal sharp clarity in a Word document as well. So the unlocked version, and I'll just close the unlocked, and we'll get back to our locked version. In the locked version, you have the ability to copy to clipboard this way, and we would recommend that that's the way that you copy when you're active in a Swimlane timeline diagram. But that export unlocked has been a welcome feature from a number of our current users.